So I'm Crystal. I'm from Ontario, Canada. We live in Sudbury. I'm 25. I have 3 kids. They're all girls. So
You're a girl mommy.
hectic. I'm a girl mom. So I have a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, and Lennon is 6 months next week, and she's our BWS baby.
She's so stinking cute, and her name is adorable.
Thanks. Everyone thinks when I say her name, people ask me if it's like John Lennon. I'm like, not really, but we'll go with that because it's better than the actual.
How did you come up with it?
I was on this baby app while I was pregnant, and I just came across the name for a unisex name
Yeah.
because we didn't think we'd actually be able to find out the sex because from every ultrasound we had that we could have, she just didn't want to. She was just like, nope.
She wanted to stay.
Yeah, so we had our friend bought us a 3D ultrasound for
Oh, what a nice gift.
a present. So we
Yeah.
ended up finding out then, but for the longest time we just didn't think we'd actually find out her gender until she was born. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a good unisex name.
It
So
definitely
we
is.
just came by it, yeah.
So cute.
For sure. Thanks. I like it.
Yeah.
We're a unique name kind of family.
Yes.
My
Definitely.
oldest daughter's name is Cherokee. And then
Oh,
Grace
very
isn't
cool.
quite as unique of a name, but yeah.
What's your middle
Yeah.
one?
Grace.
Oh, she's got a more.
Yeah, I named her after my favorite aunt.
There
So
you go. That's awesome.
sorry, I'm on my phone. So if you
That's
see me
okay.
moving the phone, it's because I'm adjusting my glasses
Well, you're
or doing something with the baby.
you're awesome right now. You're adjusted. You're doing this. You have a baby on your lap.
It's fun.
So
Yeah.
where did your guys' story kind of begin? Did you know before you had her that she had BWS or no?
No, we didn't. So what we didn't know until we didn't know there was really anything until she was kept in the NICU after she was born. Because when she was born, she was limp, barely moved, barely cried. She had really high heart rate
Okay.
when she was born, so that was the main reason for keeping her. For pregnancy wise, I feel like most of us, I had polyhydramnios at 26 weeks. So at 26 weeks, all of a sudden, I was just gigantic.
That's so funny.
Absolute.
Hey.
Yeah. And I'm a bigger person, so you can't normally tell when I'm pregnant. I don't look super pregnant, but all of a sudden, it was super noticeable. I was measuring almost full term from 26 weeks
The water.
on, and I think when she was born, my stomach was 46 centimeters.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I could barely
Did you
move, and I was
feel a
just
little bit better though once you knew all of that? Because when I found that out, I was like, oh, okay, so it wasn't just me pigging out on extra food or
yeah,
eating
I did.
ridiculous.
I did, and I actually I normally lose weight in pregnancy, at least in the beginning, because I have a thyroid condition
Okay.
that kind of corrects itself when I'm pregnant for some reason. It did with all 3 girls, but I lost 30 pounds for
Whoa.
this pregnancy. Normally in my other pregnancies, I'd lose about 20 pounds and then only gain about that back. So I was as big giving birth as I was when I got pregnant.
Gotcha.
But this time I lost 30 pounds and then it just didn't come back. So I was like, okay, well, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool. But
that
I
is
was just
cool.
getting gigantic, just more and more
Yeah.
gigantic. Oh,
That seems
give me
to
one
be a
second.
trend.
Yeah. Yeah, people thought I was having twins for I feel most of my pregnancy. Everyone was always like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?"
Yeah.
My husband is watching my live right now.
Oh, isn't that the worst? My husband does that all the time.
Hear that, Sean? You're the worst.
He's probably doing that for support. My husband makes fun of me all the time. I'm like, can you just go somewhere?
So is Cherokee.
That's hilarious.
I'll
Yeah.
hear him in the background making fun of my voice, or I'll hear my voice on his phone. I'm like, come on.
I'm wearing headphones right now, so I can't hear.
Oh, that's perfect. That's what I need to
I
start
can't
doing.
hear it. Yeah. Yeah. So, once they figured out I had polyhydramnios, I was with midwives, and then they referred me to a doctor for my primary care,
Okay.
just because they don't do like interventions, like say, like I can, if I had birth at the hospital, or like if I decided to give birth at a birthing center,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't be able to, like, the only pain relief they could provide is like laughing gas or something if I needed it, or like
Gotcha.
emergency sort of situation. Um, so when I got referred to a doctor, I got referred to Toronto also for a special ultrasound, just to see like what was going on. And that ultrasound, they noticed that her kidneys were enlarged, and which is probably the cause of the polyhydramnios in the first place, probably because she was
Right.
peeing too much
Yeah.
and not regulating the amniotic fluid properly.
Right.
And they offered me an amniocentesis or synthesis, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have found out early, but I would have had to go back to Toronto, and that's like, I live in the north, so it's like a good 4 hour, like
Oh,
good
wow.
4 hour drive. And they
Yeah.
wanted me to come back like the next week, and I couldn't afford that because I already had to get a travel grant in the first place, and you can only get one a year in
Gotcha.
Ontario. So we just chose not to. And I was already like so big, and it was near the end of my pregnancy, and I was just like, if it ruptures, I don't want to give birth in Toronto.
Right.
If like
Yeah.
my water ruptures, I don't want to give birth so far from home, because then I
Exactly.
would have had to stay in Toronto, and I don't have family in Toronto or
Gotcha.
like anything. So like there was, I didn't, nothing really much I could do if it happened in Toronto. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm okay with not knowing something
Right.
for now. But we were given a good like warning that she will probably have to stay in the NICU, and that there may be something.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when she was in the NICU, our pediatrician, who we decided to keep the pediatrician that she had seen in the NICU for that first like week, for that week she was there, it was always the same pediatrician for
Mm-hmm.
5 of those days. And she noticed like the little markers. So like her tongue was probably the first thing. Her eyes are a little bit far apart. She has like a flatter bridge of her nose. Her ears are a little low. She has I can't remember. Like her palms have just one crease on
Oh.
them on both, so they noticed that too.
Huh.
There was just like a bunch of little things, a little muscle tone, like all that were just
Right.
like, they didn't know if it was going to be something. They did a genetic testing just to be sure, just to see if there is something. She's like, there might be something, there might not be something, but we're going to do this just to see.
Yeah.
And then that result took a while because when the day we gave birth, I think the day before we gave birth, our hospital got hacked. So
Oh my.
everything was done by paper. Even like like they didn't have, like, it wasn't electronically processed right away.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
think it took a good month and a half to get the results back, and normally it wouldn't take that long
Wow.
because of like the hospital getting hacked. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. Like my whole labor was documented by paper. Like I
Oh
guess
my.
how they used to do it like way back.
Oh my God. I
Yeah,
can't imagine that.
yeah. There was a nurse in my room the entire time, which made sense. Normally they would just
Yeah.
track it through the
But
computer, but they kind of couldn't. So there's pretty much a nurse in my room the entire time.
wow.
And I got induced at 37 weeks and 6 days,
Okay.
just in case, because there was so much fluid. And yeah,
Yeah. So how big was she when she was born?
she was 8'12".
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's big for 37 weeks.
Yeah, and like my other kids, they're on the smaller side naturally. So Cherokee was 6'7" when she was born, and Grace was either 7 or 7'1".
Yeah, they were
She was
peanuts.
7'1" apparently. Yeah, so they were small-ish, like they were average.
Yeah.
Oh, I can hear myself now on
It's the
his
worst.
phone, and it's like lagging. Looks like I could hear it, like I talk, and then like 2 seconds later, I can hear it.
I know it's the
That's
worst.
so weird. That's just the weirdest.
I know. It's taken me a while to get used to this.
Yeah. This is the first time ever doing like a live anything, so I'm like, I don't really know.
Oh, you're doing
See
fine.
how this goes. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you gonna burp or what? Not a chance, eh?
Look at her. So cute.
She's
So
so hard to
tell you
burp.
did they tell you like once they got her blood work back, did it come back positive,
Yeah, it
or
did.
did they clinically diagnose her?
No, they didn't clinically diagnose, it came back positive. So
Okay.
after that, we started the protocol after that, but she was only, what, 2 months old, I think?
Oh, that's
The day she turned 2 months old was the day we found out that she had BWS.
all right.
So, and then they
That's,
started the protocol pretty much right away after that.
that's good. So they're pretty good with, having people there to give you the care that you guys need and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, really, like, we got lucky with our pediatrician that we have. I don't know how it works other places, at least in Ontario, generally, unless you need to see a pediatrician, you don't usually see one. So,
Oh,
like, I had never been, like, familiar with how pediatricians work because my other kids didn't ever need to see one. And
okay.
now she sees one regularly, but, like, she takes my questions seriously. She doesn't just, like, sweep me under the rug,
That's
which I
good.
feel like I hear about a lot of doctors doing that. And I'm like, that just doesn't seem right,
Yeah,
especially with, like, a condition that's not well known. Like, I
right.
feel like if you don't know much about it, you should want to know
Exactly.
more about it, kind of thing.
Yep.
Especially if you're, like, a caretaker of a child
Yeah.
with BWS. It's just like,
Yeah.
what is that? But everyone that I've seen so far has looked up BWS before they even saw us, or at least specialists anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. So we've
Good.
been fortunate with, like, the care we've gotten so far. I haven't ran into any specialists that were, like, kind of questioning me or, like, really, like, kind of trying to discredit me in a
Right.
way,
Right. That's
which
good.
is good.
Do you have any concerns with her as of right now with like her tongue or with anything like breathing issues or anything like that?
No. So her tongue, like, they said she has moderate macroglossia, but it doesn't seem to, like, affect her a lot. So she eats well. She had a bit of breathing problems until we elevated her in her sleep.
Okay.
But now that she's elevated in her sleep, we've had no problems. She gags sometimes. I
Hmm.
feel like now it's mostly because she's eating her fists and shoving her hand too far in her mouth and, like,
Yeah.
gagging that way. Lately, it's just been that she hasn't gagged on her own in a good, like, month now.
Okay, that's
Um,
good.
yeah, so her kidneys, like, most of her internal organs are enlarged.
Hmm.
She has hydronephrosis on both of her kidneys, and I think
Okay.
the left is bigger. But
Okay.
her kidneys have been enlarged since before she was even born. So it's probably, I don't know if that's a thing that's going to go away. Probably not.
Yeah, if
I
they
don't think so.
yeah, they'll
Yeah.
probably be that way.
Excuse me. Totally just burped.
Oh, that's all right.
Um,
I'm a boy mom. That's all I deal with is burps and all sorts of stuff.
Girls are just as gross. They really are. My
It's
other
just
two kids
kids in
are
general.
so gross.
They're adorable, but they're gross.
Yeah. Yes. Eventually, I know you'll be gross too, Lennon. Eventually. For now.
How is it trying to balance and manage everything that Lennon needs with having two other kids and they're close in age too, so you kind of have your hands full.
I feel like if, like, I had Lennon sooner, like it's 5 year age gap between my oldest and Lennon, and
Hmm.
then because my older two kids are only 11 months apart, so it's
Right.
like they're about the same age gap from Lennon, and I feel like they don't have a lot of, like, needs that they kind of can't figure out themselves for the most part.
That makes sense.
Because, I mean, like, they're both in school, so during the school year, it's super easy. None of her scans have yet been when I had to take them with me. So far, they've all been during school time, including her next ones in September. So they'll be in school.
Okay.
So and anything that I've had good luck so far with people being able to watch them for appointments. I
That's
don't find it super hard to manage with all three kids.
that's
Because,
good.
like, my oldest likes to help me a lot.
Hmm.
She's kind of like, She likes to do a lot of things like hold Lennon or like she'll carry her around the house for me sometimes when
Oh.
I'm doing something and I'm like, she likes to help a lot. My middle child is not so helpful. She loves her sister, but she just needs to
Yeah.
be in her face
Yeah.
constantly. And I'm like, babies need space. They're not
Yeah.
toys, they're people. Get out of her face.
Great.
Yeah. So
That's
other than just her being like super in her face, I haven't really found it super hard. And like Lennon, I feel like doesn't have a lot of major issues at the moment anyway.
okay.
She has kidney stones. That's about the most issues that she has
Okay.
at the moment. And we just started physical therapy.
That's good.
So that's like, those are the only two things really at the moment that I'm kind of like having to juggle with
Does
the
she have
kids, but
um,
it's not like terrible.
does she have any hemihypertrophy or anything like that?
No. So, and I thought she did. Like we thought we saw. I think she has an extra crease on her thigh, so maybe eventually it might kind of like pop
Uh,
up.
right, right.
For now, though, it doesn't seem to be too bad. And when we were at physical therapy, the therapist kind of measured her legs for me,
Okay.
and so far they're like the same distance apart. One's a little bit like a little more girth than the other,
Right.
but that can also be pretty normal on anybody else too.
Yeah.
So, and she said she could measure every now and then, but I'm like, we'll see. I think
Yeah.
maybe if it does pop up, it's going to be like first big growth spurt
Right.
kind of thing, or just something that's not super noticeable. But so far, not really.
Good.
I don't think so.
Sheila said, "Is she in physical therapy for lower tone?"
Yes, yeah, she is.
Okay.
Because there's things she should be able to do right now that she's just not. So she's not rolling or reaching. She's on par for sitting up so far, and like her legs seem to be pretty strong, and it's her upper body and like her core muscles that we're really working on.
Yeah.
So right now we're working on rolling and reaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does she have the diastasis recti, like the separation in her abdominal muscles?
I don't
Do
think
they
so. No
split?
one ever mentioned it to me, so
Okay.
I'm actually not sure. I don't think so though.
Yeah, I was curious 'cause Owen has that, and I always feel for him because when he when he's on his back and he tries to like do like a sit up, he has like a really hard time, and it's because his abs aren't connected. So I feel so bad for him. I'm like, oh, buddy, you're like flopping around like a fish. I feel
Yeah, I
so
don't
bad.
actually know if she has that. No one ever like told me
You might be
whether
able to
or not she
see
has
it
it.
like with Owen. I can see, and I have it now because of the boys because I got so big with both of them, my abdominal wall separated. So he was born that way, but mine is that way now. And with him, you can see like a line right down the middle of his belly.
Oh, okay.
So if you ever see her like trying to sit up and you see like a line right down the center of her belly, then she probably has it.
Okay, well, I'll look out for that.
Yeah, you have to keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, she doesn't really like lift her legs, so like I haven't really seen anything. Like I don't know if you'd see it if she lifted her legs or tried to lift her legs because like she doesn't
Yeah,
like curl up like most babies do. She just kind of like lays flat.
yeah.
She sometimes lifts her legs and slams them down.
Oh,
Yeah.
how is she? Like personality wise, does she have the classic feistiness that
Oh
BWS
yeah.
babies have?
Oh yeah. She's sassy. She's got an attitude. She's starting to like coo. Like she at first all she did was really like the baby sound she made was like grunting, a lot of grunting. She
Yeah.
used to do that a lot.
Oh.
Are you pooping on me or farting on me? I can't tell. I can't tell. Yeah. She
What
takes all of her scans like a champ. She doesn't like
does?
the ultrasounds too much, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's just because she's hungry.
Yeah.
I
Right.
feel like if she were not, like, if she were allowed to eat for most of it or like eat before it, she'd be fine.
Right.
And blood work, she takes better than any adult that I've ever known taking blood work.
Wow. Look at
She just
her.
lays there. She's just like, eh. She doesn't even need, like,
Oh,
I guess most kids probably would need someone to hold them down while they're getting their blood work done. I feel
yeah.
like my oldest kids would probably need that because they've never had to have blood work done. Feel
Yeah.
like they probably wouldn't like it. But she just lays there. She's just like, oh,
That's
do your
awesome.
thing.
I hope she
Yeah.
stays that way for you because
Me too.
we need all hands on deck with Ellen. It's just, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's
I
only
hope she
getting
stays
worse.
that way because she's just
Yes.
like,
Oh,
Yeah. The last ultrasound tech we had let me feed her halfway through the ultrasound, so she got done the
that's
stuff that she needed to do that needed to be an empty stomach, and then let me feed her while we finished the rest. So I don't know if her not being hungry contributed to her attitude
right.
while getting her blood work taken, but like she just kind of laid there. She was like, "Yep, do it,
That's
whatever, do the
what do
thing."
you think the hardest part so far has been for you guys, like as a family, kind of dealing with her diagnosis?
Not knowing things, like, and not like being uncertain and having to kind of like take it kind of day by day. I like to know things. I like to
Yeah.
know things. I like to plan things. I'm just very like, I need to know. And I think the
Yeah.
hardest part for at least me is not knowing and kind of having to play things by ear.
Yeah.
And then just with the like higher risk of cancer, kind of like thinking like, I hope that she's
Yeah.
the one of the 10 that don't get it, like the 1 in 10. Like I hope she's not the one
Yeah, I
that
know.
does get it. Yeah.
Is she, do you know what type she has? Do they
I No, they
tell,
didn't tell us.
they didn't tell you?
No, I didn't say what type she has. We do have another genetic appointment in September because mine and my husband's blood got drawn to see if one of us was carrier of it
Okay.
and to see like how exactly it occurred, whether it was like
Oh, they'll
just
probably tell you then.
yeah, I think they'll probably tell us then because
That's
we don't know yet, like whether it's a parental thing or whether it's just kind of like one of those spontaneous kind of
sporadic.
cases. Yeah,
Yeah, it'll be
yes, we don't
interesting
know
to see
that yet.
what kind she has.
Yeah, I
How?
plan on asking that at the next appointment.
Yeah.
So, like in Sudbury, they have a geneticist that comes up every few months. So that's why we had to wait so long for our appointment because the next geneticist isn't up until September.
Wow.
And we had our blood work done in, I think, April. No, March, because she was 2 months old. So we had our blood work done in March, but we can't find out anything until September.
Oh my gosh, that's such
Yeah,
a long
because I
wait.
feel like otherwise we'd have to go to Toronto, and not down for that unless I have to.
Yeah, that's a long drive.
Yeah.
So, um, how is she on her growth scale? Like, has she continued to kind of like grow quickly, or has she leveled off?
She's kind of leveled off. She's 16 pounds now.
Okay.
She's tall though, so I feel like she's a taller baby than she is a chunkier baby. Like in
Yeah.
comparison to my oldest, because my youngest one, she's small. She's tiny.
Hmm.
She looks like she's turning 5 and she's starting to look like a believable 4-year old. Like she's tiny. Like she's so small, so I can't even like compare to her because she's just always been like on the
Right.
shorter side of life, and she probably always will be. But compared to my oldest daughter was maybe 2 to 4 pounds lighter than Lennon. Definitely not as long, but she was
Okay.
always on the higher end of normal. So
Hmm.
for height, she's definitely way out of
Right.
the norm for sure. But for weight, she's kind of coasting somewhere in like the higher end of normal, but
Not
not
like,
as much, not as rapid growth as I thought there was gonna be.
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe she just hasn't hit a massive growth spurt yet.
I'm thinking that could be a thing. I'm thinking that could be a thing because I'm like, there's so many cute, chunky babies
Oh my God,
that are her age right now, and I'm like, I can't. I can't get over it. They're so
just
cute.
want to squeeze them.
I do. Yeah, she's my only chunker, like my only one with rolls. My
Roll
kids didn't
that.
have rolls or like really much fat on them when they were babies. She's definitely my chunky.
Yeah.
She has like little like squishy cheeks, and like the other
There's
girls just didn't like.
speed up your
Compared to
baby.
her, they were not.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, do you think do you think like your outlook, like how's your outlook since you've gotten her news and just everything that she goes through? Like, do you feel a little bit more at peace than you did when you first found out, or is it just
Yeah,
day
I
by day?
do.
That's
Definitely.
good.
I feel a little bit more at peace with it since we first found out. So like scans are always nerve wracking. She
Yeah.
just has so many appointments, and that's always like the latest appointment she's had was just a pediatrician appointment, an eye appointment. So far, like there's nothing like major specialist appointments because we're still waiting for an ear nose throat doctor for her tongue and her hearing
Okay.
because she has residual hearing loss from like inner ear congestion. So we're just waiting to hear from an ENT for an appointment, but they won't do anything for her till she's 6 months old. So
Right.
I'm thinking that's why we haven't heard from them yet because they wouldn't make an appointment for her until after she's 6 months old anyway.
Okay. So
So
how did you figure out the ear thing? Because I'm in the process of doing Owen. Like how did you go like find out that she had hearing loss? Did you just continue to take her for congestion or
so what happened was before any baby is discharged, like any baby is discharged from the hospital, here they do a hearing test
okay.
on the babies, and she failed her hearing test, so she got referred to an outside source for a hearing test, failed that hearing test, and then had to go see an audiologist twice.
Okay.
And that's when they figured out she had inner ear, like about the inner ear condition, and that's why she wasn't hearing very well. And I find her hearing has improved, but when she has a cold, when she's super congested, it's like back to square one with her
Right.
hearing. Like it's like she hears nothing almost.
And do you
Because
think
she
she gets congested more than normal?
definitely more than my other two did. For
Yeah.
like 100%, I'm pretty sure she's had at least one cold a month since she's been born. And like she got her first cold. So she came home, she was 8 days old. She got her first cold within a week of being home because both of her sisters had a cold. And of course,
Yeah.
she's going to catch probably whatever her sisters get because,
Right.
just how childhood works.
Oh yeah.
I feel like she gets sick a lot easier than her sisters do. Like, I don't know if that has anything to do with the condition, but she's definitely a lot more congested, I feel like, than
So funny. I
definitely they
feel
were.
like for some reason these kids just I mean, that's how Owen is. He gets so congested all the time. And last time I went to the ENT, they were checking his inner ear, trying to make a decision about tubes for his ears, but they were like, we don't want to do the hearing test because he's too congested. And I was like, well, they're like, you got to as congested. Like, but he's always congested. Like, why do I have to screw that?
Yeah, so they did the hearing test knowing that she had congestion
Mm-hmm.
because they had suspected that it was her inner ear causing it, or like that it was her inner ear
Gotcha.
causing the congestion. So they did the first one just as kind of like a preliminary, like, what do we need to do from here? So then they did another one, I think maybe 2 months later, just to
Okay.
see if anything had improved. One of her ears had improved a bit, and the other one was still fairly congested, but like her inner ear was still fairly congested. And then they decided that they figured out that it was that causing residual hearing loss. So they don't think it's going to be temporary loss. They think it's just going to be like when she's congested, probably when she's older, when she's congested, she's going to like get a bit kind of like blocked in the ears kind of thing. And my oldest sister, like not my oldest sister, my middle sister had hearing problems since she was a baby. Like she
Okay.
had to have tubes several times. She probably should have had hearing aids. Like
Wow.
her
Okay.
hearing was that bad as a kid.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's like a BWS thing necessarily for her hearing or if it's like a family thing. So it could be both.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it could be like a combo for her.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But so far her hearing, like she turns her head to really loud noises, but like say you like snapped her ear or like did like a soft sound, she won't turn her head. So I'm
Okay.
thinking maybe she's not hearing it that well and that's why she's not turning her head, but like she'll
Yeah.
turn her head for any loud noise. And her
Okay.
sisters are constantly running around my house screaming. So like
Yeah.
she'll turn her head and then like give
Oh.
them an eye,
Yeah.
like shut your mouth, kind of like
Yeah. Quiet.
yeah, pretty much. I feel like she
Sheila
sleeps all the time. Like I don't know if that's
Sheila
like
wanted to ask you if Lennon has ever needed a sleep study.
no, not yet, and I feel like that might be determined by the ENT. So
Okay.
we're not seeing a pediatric ENT because there are no pediatric ENTs in the city I live in. So we're
Okay.
seeing an ENT mostly for her hearing. So she was originally referred for her hearing, and then
Mhm.
I asked about her tongue and to have it looked at just to see
That's good.
if like what they think, to see if like she might need a like a reduction in future or like something like that. I might get referred to a pediatric ENT in Ottawa because
Okay.
that ENT just refers to Ottawa.
Okay.
That's where her contacts are. So if I see a pediatric ENT, it's going to be probably one in Ottawa.
Gotcha.
But I won't know until I get that appointment.
Right.
So yeah, nothing so far with her tongue. She hasn't had to have a sleep study because she breathes well. Like she seems to breathe well when she's sleeping. Even when she's super congested, it
Okay.
hasn't been a huge problem. Like she'll wake up more in the night when she's congested.
Right.
But for now, like so far, she's sleeping pretty much through the night.
That's
But when
good.
she's really congested and has a cold or something, she'll wake up more often.
Gotcha.
Probably because the congestion's kind of messing with her breathing a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Hopefully they can, you know, at least look at it and say, you know, we think that is going to present as a problem or not. So that way, kind of don't have to worry about when she's sleeping or
Yeah.
that way stress about it.
I'm hoping that it doesn't end up being something that she'll need.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know if it's something that's going to be covered for me. I don't
Uh,
know if it would be something because like sometimes surgeries aren't covered in Ontario if they're not, if it's something that just we want and it's not deemed medically necessary, we might have to pay for it ourselves.
gotcha.
So if it's, I'm hoping it's not recommended just because I don't know if it's something that's covered. And I
Good.
haven't met very many people from like Canada or even Ontario that could answer that question for me. Like,
Right.
would a tongue reduction be covered in Ontario? Because almost everything else is.
Right.
Because of universal health care in Ontario, almost everything else is covered, like her ultrasounds, blood work, like any specialist she needs. Like, that's all things that are, for the most part, covered. I think anything like surgeries or things like that might not be, but I don't actually know. And no
Right.
one seems to be able to answer that question for me
Oh,
when I ask, like doctors or anything. That seems to be like one of the only questions that nobody can answer for me is whether the tongue reduction is covered if she needs one.
is it because do they not do a lot of them, or like I wonder why they
Uh,
can't do that for you?
I don't know if it's because I don't know if they don't do a lot of them. I would definitely have to go out of town, probably either to Toronto or Ottawa for it if
Okay.
she did need one. I know it's definitely not something that would happen in Sudbury.
Gotcha.
Like a lot of specialized care isn't just doesn't happen in Sudbury. So there's like if she needs some specialists, I might have to a lot of her care might have to actually occur out of Sudbury,
Okay.
which will kind of suck because you can only get a travel grant once a year,
Right.
and that's another question no one can answer for me. Is it once a calendar year or once a year apart?
Oh,
Because like
right.
my last one was in December, so can I get one? Can I not get one until December?
Or
Or
because
is it within
yeah.
that calendar year? So I don't know.
So Kelly
What?
Corey.
Okay. Sorry, Sean was just telling me one of my friends that's watching. I'm like, wait, what's happening?
So there's a woman on here. Kelly. I'm probably butchering your name. I can't even say her name. Corrivio. She said she in Ontario, and her daughter's tongue reduction 29 years ago was totally covered. She had her surgery at Sick Kids in Toronto.
It was covered?
That's what she said 29 years ago.
Okay, well, that's good. Then I
Yeah,
assume that that hasn't changed. That probably hasn't changed
probably not.
in the
So
last
there you go.
29
There's your
years then. So
answer.
that's good. There we go. Because doctors can't seem to answer that question for me.
That's awesome.
You'd think the people that would know whether something's covered or not.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I know. I think that's been the hardest part for me is just like being around so many educated people, like in my job and like work with physicians, and them just having absolutely no idea what Owen has. Kind of just like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, so you're just constantly having to like educate people
Yeah.
on it. Yeah. I haven't had to do too much of that. Like most of the specialists, most of the doctors she's seen so far have looked it up
That's good.
before we saw them. I
That's
think the
good.
only person, the only doctors I've really had, or well, they're not my doctors, but the only doctors that like people I've had to explain it to are my nurse practitioners because that's our primary care
Okay.
for her. So like she gets all of her vaccinations and like general like little things we go see the nurse practitioner for.
Okay.
And then we have like a follow up with our pediatrician after every ultrasound, like a month or two after an ultrasound. So in
Oh,
between
that's
ultrasounds,
nice.
we see my pediatrician.
That's really good.
Yeah. She doesn't tell me though the results of my scans because I guess if she's a no news is good news type of doctor.
Oh, that
And
stinks.
I'm just like, I asked my nurse practitioner, I was like, I asked them to the hospital to forward them the results, and they call me with
That's
the results because I'm like,
yeah, you
I
already wait.
need to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean,
I need to know whatever I can know. I
right.
need to know. So that's why I know she has kidney stones. I don't think, because they didn't call me for my first results. And I was just like, okay, well, what's going on? And then
Yeah.
they told me that she has kidney stones. I feel like I probably wouldn't have actually found out if I just stuck with the no news is good news. I
Right.
feel like I wouldn't even know that she
Well, and
has
what
stones.
what do they prepare? Because I know kidney stones. I mean, I don't know about them in babies, but I know in adults they're extremely painful. Like, are they going to be that way for her? Like, did they give you any insight to what to
Um,
prepare for that?
Sometimes I feel like I can tell when she's having a flare up. I feel like babies don't experience pain the same way we do because
Yeah.
they don't know it's not normal. They just know that it's there.
Oh, that's a good
That's
point.
my running theory about pain and babies. I don't
Yeah.
actually know. I know nothing. But like this is how I feel like when
Right.
I feel like what I know she has one because she'll have like a week or so where she's eating less than she
Okay.
normally does. And right now she's eating about 7 ounces. And sometimes just all of a sudden she'll be more uncomfortable
Okay.
and kind of look like she's in pain. And then she'll be eating like between 4 and 5 ounces
Okay.
instead. So I feel like she might be having problems with her kidneys at those points because I know I have a few friends that have had kidney stones or that have kidney stones and they say they don't want to eat at
Okay.
all when
Wow.
they have kidney stones. Like I don't have experience with kidney stones. I had to have my gallbladder removed for gallstones. If
Oh
it's
yeah.
anything like that, if it's anything like that pain, then like,
I heard they're bad. I heard
geez.
they're worse than labor.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. And
Yeah.
like, I haven't had problems with like I don't have experience with kidney stones myself. But I feel like I can kind of tell when she's having a little bit of a flare up.
Hmm.
So far, it doesn't seem to be causing her too many issues. She pees a lot. Like I could wring out her diapers.
Yeah.
Sometimes she pees so much. So I think because she's peeing a lot, my doctor's not super concerned
Right.
about them. And I think she's too little to have them lasered or
Yeah.
anything.
To do anything.
Yeah, so I think she's too little to really do anything about them yet. They
Okay.
don't seem to bother her too much, but she's definitely, I think they make her uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
But I feel like babies also don't know that pain's not supposed to be there. They don't know it's not normal. They just know it's there.
Right.
So I don't know.
So well, and one thing that I've noticed is I just don't think BWS babies are complainers. Like
No.
they don't really complain. Like I've found out accidentally that Owen has had an ear infection, like totally by accident. Follow up pediatrician appointment. They're like, let me just look at his ears, and they're like, is he all right? He has a raging ear infection. I'm like,
Does
oh
he
my
not
god,
get like fevers or anything like that?
no,
Though
he
he
doesn't.
has overheating problems, doesn't he?
He does have overheating problems.
So I
Yes,
feel like they could be disguised in his overheating.
they could
I
be.
don't know if Lennon has had any ear infections yet. She doesn't get fevers. Like she hasn't had fevers at
Yeah.
all. Like any
Okay.
signs or like symptoms of an ear infection, she has yet to have because of her inner ear problems.
Right.
They told me to look out for it, like
Okay.
to keep an eye on it because that can cause an ear infection.
Okay.
If she's had one, I've definitely missed it because like she overheats a lot. Like that's definitely a problem for her. It's not like terrible, but
Right.
it's definitely like makes her uncomfortable kind of thing. I feel like if she's had any fevers, it's definitely been disguised in an overheating episode because like
I mean, Owen
yeah.
turned like purple. I feel so bad for him. I'm like, no, you look like a
Oh,
grape. Oh my God.
Lennon gets super red. She gets like
Yeah.
heat rashes. My oldest daughter got heat rashes, and I don't know if it's because their skin is so fair,
Oh yeah.
like that you can see them more, or if
Hmm.
it's just a thing. Because I get heat rashes real easy, like this red mark here. That's a heat
Oh, okay.
rash right now. Yeah, I get them really easily. Cherokee gets them really easily, and so does Lennon. My Grace never seemed to, but she also has a bit more of a darker skin tone than we do, so maybe I just couldn't see them. But
Oh, that
I
could
don't
be.
really know. But
Yeah.
she's yeah. So far, I've noticed nothing really when she's sick, other than when she has a cold. Like
Yeah.
when they have a cold, it's like
It's the worst.
awful.
It's the
Yeah.
worst. You can't do anything for them really.
No, and it's sad. You can't. Yeah, and because she's 6 months old, I can't really give her. She's not 6 months old yet, so I can't really give her cold medicine
Right.
unless I'm talking to a doctor about it. Because I think most bottles of cold medicine, most medicine of
Yeah.
any kind, you probably shouldn't give them until they're like 6 months old. Not that like cold medicine really works for kids because it's all like homeopathic,
Right.
kind of like the more natural type of
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know if that does anything. Never seemed to for my older two kids. Seemed just
I
like
remember like with Owen, I would always want to give him like Motrin, but he was always so little that I'm really not supposed to. So unless they told me I could, then I would wait until whatever the age was on the bottle. But you do, you feel helpless when they're having all those problems. You're like, I just want to help you.
yeah. I feel like she doesn't complain. She's not a complainy baby. She's not a whiny baby. She's super chill. I went
Yeah.
shopping today. My sister is getting married in 10 days, so
Oh
I
my
was
God.
getting her a little outfit for my sister's wedding, and
Oh.
she was kind of hungry halfway through the shopping trip, and she didn't really complain or anything. I was like trying to give her a bottle as I was like shopping around, and I
Yeah.
probably took that bottle away from her 4 different times, and she didn't even complain. If it were my other kids, they would have been like, "Give me that damn bottle back
Yeah.
right now, in my mouth, right
I'm
now."
not done yet.
Yeah, but she's didn't cry or anything when I took the bottle out of her mouth, and I'm like, your
Oh.
sisters would have been having a fit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like
Good. At least chill for you.
she's at night. She's kind of at night is when she's less chill. Like during the day, she sleeps most of the day.
Okay.
Um, Definitely a lot more than her sisters did. She's a very nappy child, which I mean, like, I can't really complain.
Yeah. No.
I don't really complain too much. Even when she's not napping, she's just chilling if I'm not playing with her or like doing something. She'll actually like let me do things in
That's
the day. Like I'm an esthetician and I work from home, so like I have to kind
that's
of
all.
let her chill sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can actually like get clients done and stuff, and she'll just kind of like she'll chill. She'll let me do things, which is awesome for the most part. If it's anything like after 5 o'clock, it's like
She's
not a
like,
prayer.
no, it's
But
my
like
turn.
yeah, after 5, it's just like I can't get
Yeah.
anything done. Like not a prayer unless she's attached to me. Sometimes I put my carrier, like I have a little ring sling that I wear her
Oh,
in.
okay.
Sometimes I put that on if I want to do something, but
Yeah.
like for from 5 until she goes to bed at 9, it's like
Yeah.
it's all mommy all the time.
Aw.
It's totally why she's on me right now. She
Yeah.
would
I
not
kind of
be
forgot
able
that
to
she was
sit
there.
anywhere else.
I
Yeah,
forgot she was
because
there.
she's chilling. She's eating her hands right now.
Oh.
She's hanging out.
She wanted to be part of the show.
Yep. There you go. There she
Look
is.
at her. Hi, baby. Oh, look
She's
at
like,
her.
what are you doing?
Hi.
She's like, I don't know. I don't know
She's
about
like deciding if she wants to smile or not. She's like, maybe, maybe not. Oh, she's so cute. Look at her.
yeah,
Have you
cheeks.
have you experienced any issues with like strangers, like people being like insensitive, or do they just notice any difference with her at all?
Um, I think I might have gotten so far not really anything. I think I got
Okay.
a age. I feel like people haven't remarked on her weight just yet because she
Yeah.
is following a pretty normal trending for weight anyway.
Right.
So I haven't really gotten any like too much from
Good.
strangers about her, but usually when I'm out she's in the stroller and sleeping.
Yeah.
So people don't really like like people will stop me and be like, "Oh, can I see the baby?" I'm like, "Sure," and then they're like, "Oh, cute baby," and then move on, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. That's good.
What, Sean? Oh, yeah.
What do you
People
say?
from like my husband's a security guard in the downtown mall, and there's like a YMCA employment center in the mall, and like there are people that work there that are just like, "Oh my god, I need the baby," and like take her and like bring her
Yeah.
around their office to
That's
visit.
awesome.
Yeah,
What do
that's
you say?
about
The
that's
best
the most.
cheat.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, let's say if you could give new mothers, like mothers that have like just given this diagnosis for their kids, advice, what do you think you would tell them? Since you're a little further out now.
Um, it can be overwhelming, but it does it gets better.
Yeah.
It gets a little less overwhelming, I think, as they go along. Um, you get, I mean, I think the scans will always just get me super nervous, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of, just have to roll with it as hard as that is for some people, because it's really hard for me to just roll
Yeah.
with it, because I'm not a person who just rolls with
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
It gets easier and just kind of roll with it. Take it day by day, because like they may not be one of those babies that gets
Right.
the more unfortunate end of the diagnosis.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
so
good
just kind of
advice.
like embrace the cute like the moments with your baby and just kind of live
Yeah.
it.
With them while you can.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not normally a stay-at-home mom, but I'm not going back to work. Like my mat leave is done in September and I'm not going back to work just because she has so many appointments. I feel like it would be a nightmare to have
Yeah.
to like try and take those appointments off and like
Right.
yeah.
That
So
is
I'm
it is
not
hard.
usually,
Work.
and I wouldn't really consider myself a stay-at-home person, but I feel like my perspective on that has changed a lot since having her. Because I
Yeah.
wouldn't say like so far for me anyway, she doesn't have a lot of significant like extra needs. She's just medically needy. So I wouldn't really like say she's a super like special needs child at
Right.
the moment anyway, because there may be something that comes up later
Right.
kind of thing. I just feel like she's a medically needy child. And
Right.
it's kind of like I feel like that's changed my perspective
Mhm.
on the whole stay-at-home thing. So
Yeah.
until she's at least a year old, I think I'll be staying at home anyway. It'll be hard because like my husband works full time, and then I get child tax, and that's basically our only income.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it'll be challenging, but
you guys will figure it
we'll
out.
make it through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we had to pretty much figure out. I mean, I was full time before Owen. I said to my husband, like, even before we knew Owen had BWS, I was like, I don't want to be fully home, but I want to have more time with the kids. So I was like, I want to be part time. And when he was born and he was diagnosed, I was like, realistic. Now I'm out with my back injury, so I'm like, oh well, right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just figure it out one day at a time, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So far, I feel like we have so far in our diagnosis. I feel because it's so different for every baby. I'm just fortunate that we haven't had a lot of medical complications with her, and I really feel for those parents who do
Yeah.
end up with a lot of medical complications for their children. Like they are
Yeah.
strong. They are strong people
Yeah.
because like I mean, I have a hard time with her diagnosis in general, but I don't know how I'd be doing if she was one of those kids.
Yeah, that had a lot.
That yeah,
Yeah.
because so
Well,
far she doesn't really.
I think it's good for people to hear your story of her because I think the first thing when new parents Google, they have all this stuff that pops up like cancer, tumor, Google, like all this crazy stuff, and it's so overwhelming. But to see you and her, and she's so chubby and perfect and doing so good. Like I
Yeah,
think it's great. I think it's good for people to see that.
I Google a lot more than I used to for medical things since she's been
Yes.
born. Like when we first got like the results back, and before we had seen the geneticist for like the official results, my pediatrician said it was like a difference on her 11th chromosome. So I Googled for hours, like hours
Yeah.
and hours on anything about the 11th chromosome. Like
Did your husband yell at
anything.
you?
No, no, he didn't yell at me.
My husband was like,
He didn't.
Can you get off Google? You're gonna mess with your head. Like, just get off
Oh.
of the computer."
Teresa's talking about how her husband would like kind of razz her about Googling things. Yeah, he Googles probably as much as I do, he said. Yeah.
Well, that's
But
good.
like, and that was one of the things on the list. And then I was like reading about like the physical, like things that she had physically. And I think I was kind of putting myself in denial. I was just like, oh, I kind of see that, but I don't really see
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing. And I'm just like, could be this or it could be
Yeah.
that or like I don't know. And then I was just like, no, I need to stop because I'm like driving myself
Oh,
insane.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of I think a lot of new moms of kids that don't have anything going on with them can relate to that, and especially when they do have a diagnosis, you're like, what? You're looking for
Yeah. Yeah. I think because I have two other kids, it's been a little bit easier for me to process because I also have to think about them at the same time,
right.
kind of thing. So their needs and all of their stuff, I kind of have to think about them at the same time. Like if she was my first baby,
Yeah.
and like I think I'd be going a little bit more crazy with like the Google searches, and I think I'd be a lot more like on the worried side if she were like my
Right.
only child.
Right.
But like having the almost like distractions of her older sisters really
Yeah.
helps me anyway, because
That's
yeah,
that's
because it's
awesome.
help because I have to think about them too, so I can't like get too much in like a hole. And I have like a history with anxiety and depression, so like I
Yeah.
feel like I can't get myself too much into a hole because they also need
Right.
me kind of thing. And I feel like if I would, my anxiety would be through the roof all the time if it weren't for them. And
Yeah.
like my whole pregnancy, I was like anxiety mess. And I
Oh,
didn't even know that anything was wrong. I was just my general mood through my whole pregnancy was just
yeah.
like stressy. And like
Oh,
I got forced off of work early, so that did not help at all.
yeah, that's stressful.
Yeah. I worked at Babies R Us, and I got forced off of work from a baby store because
Oh
of
God.
regular pregnancy restrictions, which is like really like,
Oh,
what is this nonsense?
yeah.
Nonsense.
How far along were you when that happened?
Um, it was probably a little over 30 weeks because I had gone on a stress leave. We had gotten like new management in, and they were just not very nice. Like they just didn't like I. It was just a really big adjustment,
Yeah.
and like I feel like I went on a stress leave first before I didn't even get to go back to work before they forced me to
Oh my.
stop working. So like, and this was before I even blew up,
Oh
before
no,
like I even got huge. So I was like, ugh, whatever.
that's the
So I
worst.
didn't get to actually take a full mat leave. Like I feel like my mat leave has been shortened for that because I didn't get enough hours to
Yeah.
get the full
Do you
like the
guys get
full
how much
mat
do
leave.
you get? Do you get a year?
A year, or you can, if you have enough hours, you can take a year and a half.
Oh
Like
my God.
my oldest sister just had her first baby, and she's doing the whole year and a half
Oh my.
because she works at a Costco and she works full time. So she definitely, and she was able to work through her whole pregnancy, so she definitely had enough hours banked for that. But I only had enough to get a year of mat leave.
That's
I
so
feel like, and because that I had to get forced off work early, so part of that was a stress leave, like a paid medical leave, which
right.
eats into the hours that you have for your mat leave, so it shortens
Got.
it.
Oh,
And then I
okay.
had to go on actual mat leave earlier than I would have if I were working.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So like I'm done getting EI and like I'm done getting employment insurance in September, which was
Okay.
about the time I got forced out of work anyway. So I
Okay.
guess it's been a year. So it'll have been a
Yeah.
year since I was forced off of work. But because
Oh.
she was born in January, so had to be off in September, and then she was born in January. So
Wow. That must
yeah,
have been hard. Just kind of not working and just waiting for her to arrive and
it was because like I just really wanted to work. I was working part time at a spa, like on the weekends,
Mm-hmm.
up until December 30th, actually, and she was born on January 19th. So I worked part-time at a spa for way longer than I should have, really, because I was like sore and like waddling my way to work. So it was like a walk. Like I walked to work because I was that close.
Yeah.
I was like waddling my way to work every day, like every weekend, and
The
I was like,
worst. I mean, I don't think they need to like I seriously like the how big BWS needs to get with these babies is insane. I didn't even know it was physically possible for me to get as large as I got. I mean, I'm huge.
yeah, I had because I had. Oh, you're okay. I startled her. I because I had two other kids before her. I feel like my uterus was able to expand more than a lot of people's would have been because I already had gone through two pregnancies. It was already stretched
Right.
and ready to stretch again. But like I didn't think I
Yeah.
could get that big. I
I
didn't think I would ever actually look pregnant unless I lost weight before getting pregnant. So
yeah.
like it was strange actually looking pregnant. Like I look at pictures of myself and I'm like, I look like a house. Like I'm as big as a house. Like what
Yeah.
is this?
Oh my
Like
gosh.
what is this?
It's
And
a
like
horrible. Yeah.
when I was in the bed, when I was like laying down in the bed before I got induced, like the doctor was just like, "Oh, your polyhydramnios doesn't look too bad." I get up and he's like, "Oh, there it is." He's like, because
Found
I was
it.
plus he was like moderate. I had moderate polyhydramnios apparently. I don't know. It was giant. I feel like it was severe, but whatever. They said I had moderate.
You're like,
I had
wait.
moderate polyhydramnios, and he couldn't really see it when I was laying down. I get up. He's like, "Oh yeah, there it is. There it is."
Oh.
Yeah, and I didn't have any like drugs of any sort for her birth, so like
Oh
I
boy.
didn't think I could do that. I was like at the end, I was just like I should have gotten the drugs.
And then it's too late. You're like,
Yeah, then it's like way too late. I didn't have any for Grace because she just came way too fast. Like I didn't even have time to
yeah,
get even like morphine or anything.
right.
And like, so I was like, okay, I've done it before. I can do it again. And I'm just like all hopeful and crap. And I'm just like, I should have gotten the drugs. Should have gotten the drugs.
Well, meanwhile, she was like, what? That your middle one was little, right? She was like 2 pounds bigger than her, right?
Yeah, yeah, she was like 2 pounds bigger than her. And like
Yeah,
at the same time, because her head, like my cervix was kind of forming like a little suction on her head. So she
yeah.
wasn't coming out properly. And at the same time, the doctor's like in my cervix with his fingers, massaging my cervix while she's also exiting my body. And I'm like, oh
Oh
my
my
God, I'm
God.
gonna
You're like,
die.
okay, everyone leave me alone.
I was like, I'm gonna die. And then like when she started crowning, because his hand had been there the whole time, I was like, what is happening? And then my midwife was
Oh,
like, my midwife was there as a support person. I was like, what is happening? She's like, oh, the baby's coming out now. I'm like, thank Jesus.
oh my
Thank
God.
you.
I remember when Owen came out, but he was a C-section. And when he came out, I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Like, I can't
Yeah.
have this baby in my stomach anymore. I couldn't breathe anymore. I was just like, oh, get him out. I'm
I
done.
can't imagine had they let me go to term how
Yeah.
big she would have been. Because like she was already 8'12" at
Should be huge.
37 weeks, 6 days. So like
Yeah.
imagine if I had gone to term. I don't think I would have because when I got admitted to be induced, I was already 5 centimeters. So I probably would have
Oh,
gone
wow.
anyway on my own within the next
Yeah.
few days.
Yeah.
But like, imagine had I gone full term, I would have been a C-section probably. But they were like, nope, we're not gonna let you. We're gonna like,
See, that's nice. And they were trying to convince me to just have him whenever he decided to come out. And I was past 40 weeks and I wasn't doing anything. I
oh
wasn't
wow.
dilated. I wasn't anything. He was comfy and cozy in there. Like he was
Well,
just like, no. And I just told him, I'm like, there's no way. I'm not laboring this baby. He's not going to come out. Stuff. And
oh yeah, because you had to convince them. Like they weren't like they didn't
yeah.
even yeah.
They're like, oh, you had a big baby before. I'm like, no, this is a different level of big baby. This is not big baby. This is like ginormous, huge baby. And yeah, he was almost 12 pounds. So I was like, hell no.
My God, imagine.
Oh my God.
Jesus,
Yeah.
that is bad. Yeah.
So, well, I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story with everybody. And, I think your story, especially for new moms, is really hopeful because it is overwhelming and it is stressful. Len's beautiful, she's perfect, and just doing her thing. So I think this is going to be super helpful for, moms that do get that diagnosis and that are super overwhelmed and stuff. So
It
I
is.
think,
I feel overwhelmed at times, but
yeah.
Steve French, get off the table. And my cat's like on the table, licking a plate because my kids had fish sticks for dinner.
There you go. Your
Yeah.
cat's like taking full advantage.
Yeah, he never stays off the table, so I'm like,
It's
stupid
awesome.
cat.
Well, yeah, thank you so much again for joining us, and I'm glad that we got to see Lennon on the screen.
Yeah, she's sleeping now, but
Say she's the chillest baby ever.
yeah,
Oh,
she's
look at
just
her.
sleeping. She's just like
Oh,
hanging
she's
out.
so cute. I cannot. I would totally squeeze her cheeks if I could.
She definitely has. Like, I feel like I described her as the old man from Up the other day because like she has like saggy jowls, and I'm like, I feel like she's gonna hear how I described her as a baby when she's older, and she's gonna be like, "Mom, you're so mean."
Yeah, like what the heck? Oh my God,
Yeah,
so funny.
I kind of want to dress her up like that for Halloween, but I don't think Sean will let me.
That would be so cute. Oh my gosh, you should do it.
Yeah.
Totally do
Oh,
it.
I want to.
I'm all in favor. We'll have to help convince John.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, we'll have I have a good night, and keep us posted on how you're doing and how everything's going over there for you.
Yeah, I will for sure.
It was really nice talking to you. Thanks again.
Nice talking to you too.
Have a
I
good night.
enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, me too.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
So that was our 13th segment with Crystal, and you know I'm thankful that she shared her story. I'm thankful that her story is a real positive one, and that Lennon is, doing really well. And she's just kind of, being like a normal baby for now. And I think that it's important for stories like hers, ones that aren't as stressful yet, and hopefully not at all. Because that's a side of BWS that's also very real. That these kids do live normal lives, and it's not all scary, and it's not all, stressful. And I think that's important for new moms. So we're thankful that she came and shared. And if you guys, want to share, the post is pinned. If you cannot find it, let me know, and I will message it to you. So we're just Larger Than BWS is continuing to do these weekly. I have to check and see when our next one is next week. And then next week, we're gearing up for the conference, so we're super excited. I hope everyone has a good night, and you'll hear from us again soon. Bye.